Hello, my name is Crystal Hill, and I have the pleasure of serving as the interim superintendent of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools. I'd like to thank you for listening to this recording and participating in the feedback process that will be explained later in this video. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is the 17th largest school district in the country and the second largest district in the state. We are also one of the largest employers in the county with over 19,000 employees serving over 141,000 students. The purpose of this presentation is to share our plans and priorities for the upcoming year. At Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools, our goal is to be the leader in educational excellence so students can reach their full potential. To achieve this mission, we have prepared an operating budget that puts excellence at the forefront and meets the most important needs of our students. We understand that it's important to include all stakeholders in the preparation of our budget. That's why we expanded the scope of engagement of opportunities so families, staff, partners in community, and Board of Education members could participate. We listen to their input, values, and concerns, and their voices are essential in determining our priorities and project resources. In our budget development process, we evaluated our current investments and redirected funding where necessary. To maximize our resources, we looked first to our state allocations and one-time COVID relief funding. Most of the new investments using the federal relief funding are targeted toward addressing student needs in support of academic excellence, which is our core business. At this time, I will turn it over to Beth Thompson from our strategy management team.
Hello. During this report, we'll share a brief overview of the annual planning process to which all investments are aligned, learnings from our stakeholder engagement, the current landscape in CMS, Charlotte, and North Carolina, the 23-24 budget recommendation itself, and next step following this report. The process of designing comprehensive district strategy, pillars, and core values began back in September. Work in the areas of annual planning and budget development have continued, resulting in this, the superintendent's 2023-24 budget recommendation being shared. There will be additional stakeholder engagement and a public hearing following this presentation. The final 2023-24 proposed budget will be brought to the Board of Education on April the 25th. We will start with a brief overview of the alignment of the budget recommendation to the 2023-24 Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools annual plan. The annual plan defines where we are going, our path to organizational excellence. The budget provides the financial resources to do that work. And the circular graph demonstrates the interconnectedness of our 4 pillars of excellence and how each pillar is essential to our district's ability to achieve our goals. There are 4 goals to which our school district aligns our work. These goals continue into the 2023-24 school year. There are also 3 guardrails. Each of these guardrails describe what Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools must not forsake in pursuit of our 4 district goals. There are specific interim measures for each guardrail outlined in the appendix. In order to achieve our goals, we must attend to each area of excellence: academic, people, operational, and engagement. Within each of those pillars, we have defined 12 initiatives for the 2023-24 school year, which we will enact. Each of the 12 initiatives have identified projects and will have key performance indicators. These make up the 2023-24 Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools annual plan you just saw. Additionally, each division and department within Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools plans will demonstrate alignment to the district plan. It should be noted that safety and security is an initiative that emerged as a priority for stakeholders during community engagement. Our district has invested heavily in this area over the last 2 years, using state, federal, and grant funding to invest in numerous safety and security initiatives. Key projects that are federally funded will be highlighted in this presentation. Safety and security projects funded through state funding will be outlined in the broader budget materials. It is critical that we, at a minimum, adequately resource the initiatives and key projects required to achieve our 4 district goals. These slides demonstrate the identification of direct and indirect investments that are needed to achieve our goals. Specific dollar amounts and funding sources for these investments are outlined in the appendix of this presentation. Now we will look at the scope of stakeholder engagement and what folks shared with us. Statistics related to stakeholder engagement across groups, including board members, parents, community members, teachers, and principals, are shown here. Across all stakeholder groups, people excellence was prioritized as the most important excellence pillar to prioritize in the 2023-24 budget. Compensation needs for our staff to pay quality people to keep them was a top priority. Teachers are leaving the profession at alarming rates for better pay and better working conditions. Within people excellence, compensation of teachers, principals, and non-instructional staff was lifted as the top priority for the 2023-24 budget. Stakeholder feedback confirmed what the previous data just told us: without people, we can't function. It takes people, teachers, teacher assistants, principals, bus drivers, just to name a few, over 9,000 people to serve the students and families in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. Our work is built on relationships that span across all of the county. Students don't get to school without bus drivers. Students don't master grade level standards without teachers and teachers' assistants. Students don't excel in athletics without coaches. People are the heartbeat of our district. Without these dedicated, talented people, we cannot achieve organizational excellence and thus meet our goals. Now we'll look at our current landscape, including critical conditions that provide context for this budget recommendation. A review of student enrollment indicates that student enrollment is projected to increase by 239 students in the 2023-24 school year. Charlotte-Mecklenburg teacher vacancy rates are reported in the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction reports annually. This data is collected on the first and 40th day of school each year. As you can see, the number of vacancies in CMS continues to escalate, and North Carolina Department of Public Instruction Tom Tomberlin predicts that based on data, the 2024-25 school year, the availability of traditionally prepared teachers is going to be lower than North Carolina districts have seen in the past. Vacancies are driven not just by how many teachers leave, but by whether replacements can be found. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools also reports teacher attrition rates to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction annually. Certified staff attrition is based on March to March payroll and is collected by the Department of Public Instruction in the fall of each year. The 2022-23 data will be submitted to DPI in the fall. Attrition measures the rate of teachers leaving the teacher profession. This includes resignations, retirements, job termination, and other types of departure. Again, North Carolina Department of Public Instruction Tom Tomberlin reported Charlotte area school districts generally saw similar attrition trends. It's important to note that district attrition rates tend to be higher than the state because mobility between districts counts as attrition at local level, but not at the state level. Districts continue to build recruitment and retention plans by increasing bonuses and supplements that not only encourage new teacher hires, but movement from other districts to fill a vacancy. There are 5 specific teaching positions due to attrition, turnover, and number of teachers in the teacher pipeline for hire that have been identified here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools as critical shortage areas. Because of the shortage and the lack of people in the teacher pipeline for hire, you will see later in the budget recommendation targeted compensation initiatives for teachers in these positions. There are also targeted compensation incentives for non-instructional staff in hard-to-fill critical shortage positions as well. Teacher compensation across North Carolina is important now more than ever. In order to attract, retain, and develop the best teachers, we need to be able to appropriately compensate them. There are so many competing pressures in this area, economic conditions caused by inflation and the price of goods being at all-time high. But there are also competing industries who are seeking top talent, and our teachers have transferable skills that are very appealing to other industries that offer extremely attractive compensation packages to recruit them. Data indicates that compensation for teachers has not kept pace with cost of living increases, not to mention the rise in inflation in recent years. Earlier this year, State Superintendent Truitt highlighted her concerns at the state level. In the Department of Public Instruction and State Board of Education request for the 23-25 biennium, State Superintendent Truitt presented data to the state board showing that the average teacher pay in North Carolina in the 2021-22 school year was $58,658 when adjusted for the cost of living. As you can see, North Carolina came in 7th out of 10 southeastern states. It's important to note that the average base salary is something that a teacher earns with at least 12 years of experience. The state figure also includes local supplements provided by school districts, and these numbers are not consistent across the state. On the right-hand side, you can see Superintendent Truitt also included beginning teacher pay as another comparison. In terms of beginning teacher pay, North Carolina is at the bottom of the list. While this slide highlights pay as one of our struggles with recruitment and retention, it doesn't explain that these numbers have also been adjusted based on the inclusion of local supplements in the salary averages. While we're fortunate that our county has consistently and significantly supplemented teacher pay at the local level so that our starting salary is above the state average for beginning teachers, we must continue to drive this number higher to address the overall wage gap between teachers and other professions that require a bachelor's degree. This map demonstrates in North Carolina, teachers are paid approximately 24.5% less than their colleagues in other professions requiring a similar level of education. This data plays out in the exit data we have seen when teachers leave the district. In CMS, career change has been the top reason that teachers have cited this school year when resigning from employment. Compensation of the majority of our teachers and certified staff includes a base salary that is funded by the state. Our county graciously funds the base salaries of some additional positions to support specific needs within our district. Some years, the state increases the base salary of employees. In acknowledgement of the critical importance that the recruitment and retention of staff plays in our district's ability to achieve excellence, Mecklenburg County also funds a local supplement for all teachers and certified staff in addition to their base salary, increasing the total compensation of Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools teachers and certified staff. Some years, the county increases this supplement pay for employees. Finally, we're using ESSER federal funds to provide recruitment and retention bonuses for staff in those critical shortage areas we looked at a few minutes ago. We're doing this to deepen our ability to retain and recruit the very best teachers and staff for the children and families in our community. Districts have historically competed for talent by using what we call this local supplement, the amount that a local county adds to a base salary in support of compensation of staff members within the district. CMS has ranked among some of the higher paid local supplements in the state for the last several years. However, districts are consistently and aggressively monitoring this hierarchy and moving to increase their supplements to stay at the top. For example, Guilford County has outpaced CMS in terms of local supplement for beginning teachers who represent a large portion of new hires each year. Guilford is considered a top competitor as a neighboring county, more so than Wake, which is 2.5 hours away. Nonetheless, it's an attractive way for local communities to demonstrate a commitment to teachers by striving to provide one of the highest supplements in the state, regardless of how much the state funds. It should be noted on this graph that our supplement schedules here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools are designed to reward employees the longer they stay. The proposal in the budget recommendation presented this evening and indicated in the dotted purple line boosts CMS's ability to recruit beginning teachers, and also maintains Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools' rank in the state as a top competitor in teacher pay based upon currently available data. Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools is an integral part of Mecklenburg County in the state of North Carolina. As the biggest metropolitan city and the second biggest school district, we want to be a part of the equation families and corporations use to factor in whether or not they move to our state and city. We want teachers to come to work in CMS simply because we are the best. Factually, it's hard to support that enthusiasm when teachers don't earn enough money to cover rent or dream of buying a house. You can see renting a one-bedroom apartment is $1,435 a month on average. The income needed to support that expense would be approximately $61,000 a year. Current beginning teachers are short approximately $18,000 a year to rent an apartment in Charlotte. We'll now proceed to the 2023-24 budget recommendation, and I turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Sheila Shirley.
Thank you, Beth. These graphs display our funding sources as well as our uses of funding, showing how our resources are allocated. Our funding is provided from three primary sources. For fiscal year 2024, projections from the state will provide 51%, county will provide 29%, and federal at 19% of our total budget. It's worth noting that our federal funding is down 26% from the current year, a decline that's expected with the expiration of some of the COVID federal relief funding. The largest share of our resources are allocated to salaries and benefits, which comprise 77% of our overall budget. The total operating budget for next year is $1.9 billion without the one-time COVID funding, an increase of 4.4% over the prior year. With the one-time COVID funding of $227.4 million included, our total operating budget is $2.1 billion, a decrease of 2.5% from the current year, as some of those COVID funding dollars have been spent and will expire in September of 2023. For the capital funding, which excludes any bond funds, our proposed total is $27.9 million for deferred maintenance and routine capital outlay needs. The deferred maintenance component of $23 million is $5 million less than the current year, but $5 million higher than most recent trend prior to this year. Our enterprise funds, which include our after-school enrichment and school nutrition programs, are self-supporting organizations, and their total budgets are noted below. We will cover the budget assumption highlights on these budgets just a little bit. Our final revenue projections for fiscal year 2024 are not yet available from any of our primary funding sources, so we use our best estimates to build the budget. For state funding, the primary adjustments made are for salary and benefit increases and any modifications to carryover estimates year over year. State funding in the budget proposal increased 5.4% over the prior year, with 80% of that change attributable to the salary and benefit increases. Our county funding is proposed to increase 7%, and the budget expansion items will be described in detail later in the presentation. Federal funding is projected to decrease by 27%, primarily associated with the expiration of the federal COVID funding next year. As far as the budget assumptions on the expense side, not surprisingly, salary and benefits are a key budget driver. The proposed budget includes an estimated 3% salary increase across the board for all staff, and this same estimate was used across all funds. Benefits were increased as noted on the slide based on the 2-year average increase. We've built this budget assuming state staffing and funding ratios will remain consistent with the current year, and the resulting staffing allocations for schools will allow hiring to begin in the spring. District enrollment is expected to increase 239 students over the current year to a total of 141,456 students for the next year. Student enrollment growth in new and existing charter schools has been accounted for in this proposed budget. as well as operating costs associated with opening 2 new schools. Our after-school enrichment and school nutrition programs operate as enterprise funds, which basically means they're expected to operate as self-sustaining operations, able to cover their operating expenses with the revenues generated from their operations, such as ACEP participant fees and school nutrition meal charges. A few key budget assumption highlights used for these budgets include the same 3% increase applied for the salary increase as was used in the operating budget, as well as targeted market pay adjustments for eligible staff. Increased operating costs across the board require a 12% increase in the ACEP participant fees for next year. No meal price change is recommended for next year, but note that retained earnings will be used to cover any operating shortfall in the school nutrition fund. During the budget development process, we determined investments that needed to be prioritized in pursuit of excellence across the 4 pillars. Instead of a recommendation for budget expansion or growth, we realigned resources within our operating budget first. You can see those investments listed here. As we turn our focus to the fiscal year 2024 county appropriation, the next few slides outline the budget expansion needs for next year, divided into must-do and essential categories. In the must-do category, one item is noted in the sustaining operating area: the cost for contract rate increases for our SRO contracts for the multiple municipalities that serve our schools, as well as a fuel increase for our police fleet. Another must-do item is providing the estimated 3% state increase, as well as covering the expected health and retirement cost increases for our locally funded employees. Charter enrollment growth will require additional funding for the charter pass-through payment. And opening 2 new schools and adding square footage requires funding for staffing and operating costs. Our total must-do investments are $21.9 million. During the budget process, there were a number of investments that rose to the top quickly, and we identified as essential investments. Our thinking about these investments was confirmed via engagement with various stakeholder groups, including staff, school leaders, parents, and community members. As Beth mentioned earlier, number one and above all, our focus on people excellence was affirmed, and particularly on staff compensation needs. We know that we must be able to recruit and retain high-quality staff in order to achieve our goals and help students succeed. Our first essential investment is targeted salary adjustments for principals and non-certified staff in roles that are hard to fill and retain based on vacancy, attrition, market data, and internal equity. Increases for non-certified staff include about 24 position titles, predominantly in school-based and school support categories. Most increases ranging from 50 cents to $3 per hour, and the targeted adjustments to principal pay to address market internal equity is currently under review and will be finalized for the new school year. Additionally, funding is included to provide an increase to the local supplement that would allow us to maintain our status as one of the highest in the state. You saw earlier, as Beth shared in the conditions section, how this increase would position us competitively with other North Carolina districts. Enhanced cybersecurity is also a high priority. This recommendation includes a cybersecurity officer and a support network engineer, as well as technology tools designed to provide greater system security. The budget proposal also includes adding a director of risk and compliance monitoring, permanently funding a part-time secretary, and 1 position upgrade in the Office of Compliance and Ethics. Our essential investments total $17.1 million. The budget expansion and county funding, including must-do and essential investments, totals $39 million. In the summary, budget recommendation includes a total appropriation of $596.9 million, a $39 million increase over the current year. The most significant investment being the investment in our people, and as we shared earlier, people excellence was a priority across all stakeholder groups. And as I said earlier, we know that having high quality and high performing staff are essential in achieving any of our performance targets. The focus on people in this budget recommendation will assist us in recruiting and retaining that highly effective workforce so we can achieve the targets in our goals and guardrails. The next slide provides the key dates in our budget journey. March 30th and April 6th, there will be a community engagement sessions to get feedback on the superintendent's budget recommendation. Next Tuesday, on April 4th, there will be a Board of Education work session on the budget and a public hearing as well. On April 25th, the Board of Education is slated to approve the proposed budget. And on May 11th, our proposed budget presentation to the county commissioners. Also listed are the dates in the county budget process with a planned vote by the Board of County Commissioners on their budget on June 6th. Thank you for your time and your engagement.
So in summary, we're using a tool that you've already entered called Thought Exchange in order to gather your feedback on this budget recommendation. Thought Exchange has 3 steps: share, where you get to share your thoughts independently and anonymously; the star step, where you get to rate the thoughts of others; and discover, where we all get to see what's most important to the group. Remember, this is a confidential process, so your identity will not be known or associated with your thoughts or how you star. Once you leave this video, you will go back to the Thought Exchange and answer a couple short survey questions, sharing 1 to 2 thoughts in response to our question. We'd ask that then you seek to rate at least 20 thoughts based on it, how much you agree, 5 being strongly agree, 1 strongly disagree. I encourage you to use the full range of stars to best reflect the group's priorities to inform our next steps. You can either exit this video or scan this QR code to return to the Thought Exchange to access the link. We want to hear from you on the following question that will be in the Thought Exchange. What are your thoughts about the budget recommendation? And what should the district consider as we define success in the 2023-24 initiatives that we shared in the presentation and have listed here? Those initiatives are also linked in the Thought Exchange itself. Thank you in advance for your feedback and questions regarding the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools Superintendent Fiscal Year 2024 budget recommendation. Your voice is important and will help inform the 2023-24 budget presented to the Board of Education at the end of April. Your feedback will also help us develop measures of success for our 2023-24 initiatives. Please consider the budget recommendation you've heard today and the 12 initiatives we're focusing on as you provide feedback. Your input is valued and appreciated. Thank you so much.